ever had one of those brilliant million-dollar ideas for an app, but then, you just got stuck trying to make it real? Well, in this explainer, we are diving deep into that exact journey.
So picture this. You've got it. The amazing app idea. Maybe it's the next big thing in social media or a productivity tool that's going to change the game. The excitement is totally real, and you are just itching to start building.
You actually start to code, and then bam, a flood of questions just hits you out of nowhere. And all the fun stuff, designing the user experience, it just gets completely buried under this mountain of technical hurdles.
And that mountain, it has a name. The back end. It's all the complicated stuff that has to happen behind the scenes. And honestly, it's where most great app ideas go to die, just totally overwhelmed by how complex it all is.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Where are you going to store all the user data? How do you make absolutely sure that logins are secure? And here's the big one. What on earth happens if your app suddenly goes viral? Can your setup handle 1,000 or even 1,000,000 new users overnight without just completely crashing? Yeah, these are not small questions.
Well, this huge, overwhelming back-end problem is exactly why platforms like Google's Firebase were invented. You can think of it like your own personal app building assistant, a super powerful, all-in-one platform that just handles all that complexity for you. The best way to get what it does is with an analogy. Building an app from scratch, that's like building a house from the ground up. You got to pour the concrete foundation, that's your server. You got to install all the plumbing, that's your database. You've got to secure every door and window, that's your user authentication. It's a massive, massive job. But using Firebase, that's like moving into a fully furnished smart home. It's all there, ready to go, it's secure, it's scalable. You get to focus on the fun part, the user interface, the cool features, the decorations. And that right there is why developers absolutely love it. You can get a project up and running in minutes, not weeks. It scales automatically, so it can handle a handful of users or millions without you ever having to touch a server. It's got real-time data sync, which is just perfect for stuff like chat apps. And of course, it comes with top-notch security and Google's powerful ecosystem baked right in. But this brings up a really important question. I mean, that promise of scaling from 10 users to 10 million, it kind of sounds like magic, right? How is that even possible? What's the secret sauce, the technology that makes this kind of seamless growth a reality?
Okay, to understand the magic, we need to peek under the hood at the engine that powers this whole thing, the database. And specifically, we need to look at the difference between two major types, SQL and NoSQL. So the fundamental difference between them is really all about how they structure data. If you look on the left, you'll see a traditional SQL database. All the data is organized into these rigid tables with preset columns, kind of like a spreadsheet. So user info's in one table and their address is in a totally separate table, linked by an ID. Now look to the right, that's NoSQL. All the information for a single user is just stored together in one flexible document, like a little blob of data. The address isn't off in some other table, it's just nested right there inside the user's document.
To put it even more simply, SQL is like a library of perfectly organized spreadsheets where every single row has to follow the exact same column format. NoSQL, that's more like a folder full of flexible text documents, where each one can have its own slightly different structure.
Now, this difference in structure, it's not just some nerdy technical detail. It actually gives NoSQL databases what I like to call 4 distinct superpowers. And these superpowers make them incredibly well suited for the crazy demands of modern, large-scale apps.
All right, superpower number 1 is a flexible schema. Let's say you decide you want to start collecting a new piece of info for your users, maybe something like salary. Well, in the SQL world, you'd have to perform this really complex, kind of risky operation to add a new column to your entire user table. With NoSQL, you just start adding the salary field to your new user documents. The old ones, they're totally fine. The database just adapts on the fly. Superpower number 2 is something called horizontal partitioning, or sharding. And this is a huge one. NoSQL databases are designed from day one to spread all the data and the workload across a whole bunch of machines, not just trying to cram everything onto one single giant super powerful server. And that leads us directly to superpower number 3. It's built for scale. Because the whole system is designed to spread things out, when you need more power, you don't have to go buy one bigger, way more expensive machine. No, you just add more standard, cheaper machines to the group. It makes scaling out so much simpler. And finally, superpower number 4, they're built for aggregations.
Because all the data for one person or one thing is stored together in one place, they are highly optimized for running massive calculations across millions of documents. Things like finding the average age of all your users or calculating the total sales for a product.
Okay, so we've talked about Firebase, and we've talked about the superpowers of NoSQL. Now it's time to connect the dots and bring this whole thing together.
And this right here, this is the core idea. That incredible promise from Firebase to effortlessly go from 10 users to 10 million, it's not magic. It's the direct result of being built on top of a NoSQL foundation that was designed for exactly this kind of massive, massive scale.
So here's the real takeaway. Platforms like Firebase have harnessed the incredible superpowers of NoSQL to handle all that backend complexity for you. They're managing the servers, the scaling, the data structure, all so that you can get back to doing what you wanted to do in the first place. Focus on building your great idea.
So it really just leaves us with one final and pretty exciting question. Knowing that these powerful tools exist, ready to handle all the hardest parts of building an app, what will you build?